The galaxy celebrated 500 years of peace. On every civilized world, species of all kinds marked the anniversary of the Treaty of Redemption. It was the longest period without major war that anyone could remember. Dr. Sarah Chen didn't pay much attention to the celebrations. She was too busy in her clinic on Kepler 7, a neutral world where the borders of 3 different territories met. The waiting room was full, as always. A Vaxil mother held her sick child. 2 Kryn traders argued over who was next in line. An elderly Thalosian wheezed in the corner, his breathing apparatus making soft clicking sounds. Sarah treated them all with the same gentle care. That was what human doctors did. They fixed people. It didn't matter what species you were or where you came from. If you were hurt, humans would help you. That was their reputation now, though it hadn't always been that way. 500 years ago, humans had been different, dangerous, terrifying. But that was ancient history now, or so everyone believed. Sarah finished with the Vaxil child and was washing her hands when her emergency communicator beeped. It was the priority signal, the one that meant someone was dying. She grabbed her medical pack and ran to her transport vehicle. The message was clear. A civilian transport had crashed in the neutral zone about 20 kilometers north. Multiple casualties. She punched in the coordinates and pushed her vehicle to maximum speed. The crash site was worse than she expected. The transport had torn itself apart on impact. Pieces of hull were scattered across the rocky ground. Small fires burned here and there, and everywhere there were bodies. Most of them were moving, thank God. Sarah jumped out and ran to the nearest victim. It was a Jarak, one of the insectoid species that controlled the sector to the east. He had a large piece of metal through his abdomen. She pulled out her scanner and started working. The next 16 hours passed in a blur. Sarah moved from patient to patient, her hands steady despite her exhaustion. She sealed wounds, set bones, administered drugs. Her medical AI helped her calculate the right doses for each different biology. Jarak blood was copper-based. Their organs were in different places than human organs, but Sarah had trained for this. All human doctors trained for this. She saved 47 lives that day. 47 Jarak civilians who would have died without her. Men, women, children. She didn't think about politics or borders or old wars. She just worked. The last patient was a child, maybe 6 years old in Jarak terms. He had internal bleeding and his hearts were failing. Yes, hearts, plural. Jarak had 3 of them. Sarah's hands moved quickly, injecting stabilizers, sealing the ruptures. The child's breathing became steady. His mother, who Sarah had treated 2 hours earlier, clicked her mandibles in gratitude. Sarah sat back, finally letting herself feel the exhaustion. Her entire body ached. Her medical pack was almost empty, but everyone was stable. The transport's emergency beacon was still broadcasting, so rescue would come soon. That was when she heard the engines. 6 military vehicles appeared over the ridge, moving fast. They had Jarak Empire markings. Sarah stood up, thinking they were here to help, but something felt wrong. The vehicles surrounded the crash site in an aggressive pattern, not a rescue formation. A tall Jarak in military armor stepped out of the lead vehicle. His carapace was decorated with rank markings. His compound eyes reflected the firelight. He looked at Sarah, then at the survivors, then back at Sarah. "You are in Jarak territory," he said. His translator made his voice sound cold and mechanical. Sarah frowned. "No, this is the neutral zone. I checked the coordinates." "The neutral zone is disputed," the officer said. "I am Commander Dravok. You are trespassing." "I'm a doctor," Sarah said, keeping her voice calm. "These people were dying. I responded to their emergency beacon." "Human," Dravok said the word like it tasted bad. "You violated our borders. You will come with us." The child Sarah had just saved made a weak sound. His readings were dropping again. Sarah glanced at her scanner. He needed another injection in the next 5 minutes or he would die. "I need to treat this patient first," Sarah said. "You are done here," Dravok said. "He's a child," Sarah said. "He'll die if I don't—" "I said you are done." Sarah made a decision. She turned away from Dravok and knelt beside the child. She reached into her medical pack for the last stabilizer dose. Her hands didn't shake. This was what she had trained for. This was what humans did. She heard the weapon charge behind her. The high-pitched whine of a plasma rifle building power. Part of her brain screamed at her to stop, to turn around, to defend herself. But her hands kept moving. The child needed medicine. Everything else could wait. Step away from the patient, Dravok said. Sarah pressed the injector against the child's thorax. Almost done, she said softly. The first shot hit her in the back between her shoulder blades. The second hit her in the chest as she spun from the impact. Sarah fell backward onto the rocky ground. She couldn't feel her legs, couldn't feel much of anything below her neck. Her medical pack's AI was screaming alarms in her ear. The last thing she saw before her vision went dark was the Jarak child, his readings stabilizing. He would live. That was good. That was what mattered. Her medical pack's emergency transmitter activated automatically, sending her vital signs and location to human command. It also sent something else, the last 16 hours of her visual recordings. Everything that had happened. Everything she had done. And because the transport's emergency beacon was still broadcasting, the entire galaxy saw it too. They saw a human doctor save 47 lives. They saw Commander Dravok arrive. They saw him shoot an unarmed medic in the back while she was saving a child. The transmission ended with Sarah's whispered words, picked up by her pack's audio sensors. Tell them, I forgive him. Don't break the peace, then silence. The transmission reached Earth Command exactly 4 minutes after Sarah Chen was shot. The duty officer watched it once, then immediately woke up the Secretary of Defense. Within 10 minutes, every human government leader was watching the footage. Within an hour, every human in the galaxy had seen it. They watched in silence. There was no panic. No riots, no angry mobs. Humans simply watched a woman save lives and die for it. They watched it again and again. And then they began to move. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session 8 hours after the incident. Ambassador Thelion, an elderly Vaxil who had served on the Council for 2 centuries, watched the human representative arrive. She was calm, too calm. She sat down, folded her hands, and waited. The Council leader, a floating creche in a containment sphere, opened the session. We have all seen the transmission from Kepler 7th. The actions of Commander Dravok were unacceptable. We demand the Jarak Empire surrender him for trial. The Jarak ambassador stood. His mandibles clicked with irritation. Commander Dravok acted within his authority. The human was in disputed territory. She refused a direct order from a military officer. She was saving a child, the human ambassador said. Quietly, she was trespassing, the Jarak ambassador replied. She was a doctor, the human said. And now she is dead, the Jarak ambassador said. Regrettable but justified under our law. The human ambassador stood up. She didn't raise her voice. The Galactic Council has 48 hours to resolve this matter. If Commander Dravok is not surrendered for trial, humanity will consider the Treaty of Redemption void. The chamber fell silent. Thelion felt his blood chill. He had heard that tone before 500 years ago. That quiet, cold certainty. You cannot threaten the Council, the creche leader said. It's not a threat, the human ambassador said. It's information. 48 hours. She walked out of the chamber. Every human representative in the building followed her. They left in silence like ghosts. Across the galaxy, humans began to disappear. Not dramatically. Not with announcements. They simply left. The 15,000 human medical personnel working on alien worlds packed their equipment and went home. Human traders rerouted their ships. Human researchers closed their labs. Human teachers said goodbye to their students. On the Thelosian homeworld, a human doctor named Marcus finished his shift at a children's hospital. He had worked there for 12 years. The Thelosian staff threw him a goodbye party. They asked him when he would return. I don't know, Marcus said. He hugged each of them. Then he left. On Vaxil Prime, human engineers were building a new space elevator. They stopped work, packed their tools, and boarded transports. The Vaxil project manager begged them to stay. They had signed contracts. They would be sued. The head engineer just smiled sadly. Keep the advance payment. Consider it a gift. Then they were gone. This happened on 300 worlds. Humans leaving quietly, politely, but leaving. And they all went in one direction. Home Ambassador Thelion watched this happening and felt fear grow in his heart. He called the human ambassador. You need to stop this. You're scaring people. We're not doing anything, she said. Humans are simply choosing to return home. All of them? At once, don't lie to me. The human was quiet for a moment. Ambassador Thelion, You were there during the 72-hour war, weren't you? I was, Thelion said. His voice shook slightly. Then you know what happens next. I'm trying to prevent what happens next, Thelion said. Please, Dr. Chen said not to break the peace. We heard her, the human ambassador said softly. We're not breaking anything. We're just waiting. For what? For justice. Or for the council to fail. One of the two. The line went dead. Thelion immediately called an emergency council meeting. Most of the other ambassadors didn't understand his concern. So humans were going home. So what? They had no military. The treaty limited them to defense forces only. They couldn't threaten anyone. Thelion stood before the council feeling his age. You don't understand. I was there. I saw what humans can do. That was 500 years ago, the Kresh leader said. It was 72 hours, Thelion said. 72 hours from the first attack on a human colony to the moment the Jarak Empire begged for mercy. 72 hours and 40% of their territory was gone. The humans had a large fleet then, a council member said. No, Thelion said. They had a small fleet. But they used it like demons. Like nothing we had ever seen. Every battle was a trap. Every retreat was an ambush. Every loss led to a bigger victory. It was like fighting an enemy who could see the future. He pulled up classified files, documents from the war. The Jarak had superior numbers. Better technology. They should have won. But humans don't fight like us. They don't care about honor or fair combat. They care about winning. And they're very, very good at it. But the treaty, someone began. The treaty limited their military, Thelion said. But think carefully. Humans have spent 500 years living among us, learning our languages, studying our biology, treating our sick. Do you really think, knowing what they are, that they just forgot how to fight? Silence in the chamber. They've been planning, Thelion said quietly, all this time, hoping they'd never need to use those plans. But planning anyway, because that's what humans do. They plan for the worst and hope for the best. You're being paranoid, the Jarak ambassador said. I'm being realistic, Thelion said. I've studied human history. Do you know what they do when you hurt one of their healers? When you shoot a doctor while she's saving a child? No one answered. They have a word for it, Thelion said. They call it the medic doctrine. Attack a human soldier, that's war. They expect that. But attack a medic, someone who carries no weapons, someone whose only purpose is to save lives. He paused. They don't have a word for proportional response in those cases. They just have response. What are you saying? The Kresh leader asked. I'm saying surrender Dravok now, before the 48 hours are up. Because if you don't, we're going to remember why our ancestors were so afraid of humans. The Jarak ambassador laughed. We're not surrendering anyone. What are they going to do? They have no fleet, no weapons. Let them come. Thelion sat down slowly. He had tried. That was all he could do. He sent a message to his family, telling them to prepare the emergency shelter. He sent messages to old friends warning them. Then he waited. The 48 hours passed slowly. The galaxy held its breath. Human space was quiet. No messages. No threats. Just silence. When the deadline passed with no response from the Jarak Empire, something happened in human space. Every sensor in the region picked it up. A massive power surge. Not from one location. From 12 different locations simultaneously. The human home systems were coming alive. They came out of nowhere. One moment the space between human territory and the Jarak Empire was empty. The next moment there was a fleet, not a small fleet. Not a defense force. A war fleet. Hundreds of ships appeared, emerging from quantum jumps with perfect coordination. They were huge, dark and covered in armor that seemed to absorb light. Sensor readings made no sense. These ships were using technology that shouldn't exist. Energy signatures that didn't match anything in the galactic databases. At the center of the fleet was a massive dreadnought. Its hull was marked with a red cross, the ancient human symbol for medicine. Its name was broadcast on all frequencies, the Hippocratic Oath. The Galactic Council exploded into chaos. Emergency meetings were called. Ambassadors shouted over each other. Where had these ships come from? The treaty limited human military forces. This was a violation. Ambassador Thelion didn't join the shouting. He was reading classified files, documents he had hoped never to see again. Reports from the 72-hour war, intelligence assessments. And there it was, buried in a 500-year-old report. Human industrial capacity unknown. Suspected hidden facilities. Recommend continued monitoring. They had monitored for a few decades, then stopped. Everyone assumed humans had disarmed. Everyone was wrong. Thelion pulled up current data from human space. The 12 systems humans were allowed to occupy all had large asteroid belts. Many moons. Hundreds of thousands of large rocks floating in space. Perfect places to hide things. His assistant, a young Vaxil named Kresh, looked at the readings. Those asteroids! Some of them aren't asteroids. No, Thelion said. They're shipyards, factories, weapons platforms. All hidden under a few meters of rock and ice. Humans have been building for 500 years. But why? Kresh asked. Why build weapons if they wanted peace? Because humans are paranoid, Thelion said. They plan for the worst. Always. They hoped they'd never need these ships. But they built them anyway, just in case. On every major news network, humans were broadcasting a message. The same message repeated in every galactic language. A human admiral stood on the bridge of the Hippocratic Oath. He was old, with gray hair and tired eyes. His uniform was simple, dark blue with gold trim. He looked into the camera and spoke. My name is Admiral James Hawking. I speak for humanity. 500 years ago, we signed the Treaty of Redemption. We agreed to limit our territory. We agreed to limit our military. We agreed to live peacefully among you. We kept our word. Every single word. For 500 years we kept the peace, he paused. His expression didn't change, but something in his eyes made even watching the broadcast feel dangerous. 2 days ago, one of our doctors was shot while saving a child's life. Dr. Sarah Chen saved 47 people. She asked no payment. She carried no weapons. She was a healer, and Commander Dravok shot her in the back for it. The Admiral held up a datapad. The Galactic Council has failed to provide justice. The Jarek Empire has refused to surrender the guilty parties. Therefore, humanity is invoking Article 77 of the Treaty of Redemption. The article that states if Council justice fails, individual species may seek their own resolution. He set the pad down. Commander Dravok and his entire chain of command have 24 hours to surrender themselves to human custody. If they do not, we will consider the treaty void, and we will come get them ourselves. You've seen what humans are capable of when protecting ourselves. You've never seen what we're capable of when someone hurts our healers. We have a doctrine about that. We learned it from our own bloody history. It's simple. Touch our medics and we don't stop until you can never threaten anyone again. The Admiral leaned forward. 24 hours. Choose wisely. The transmission ended. The Jarek High Command met immediately. They watched the human fleet on their sensors. Large, yes. Impressive, yes. But the Jarek had more ships. Many more, and the humans were bluffing. They had to be. This was just intimidation. Grand Marshal Thoktar, Supreme Commander of Jarek military forces, gave the order. We do not surrender our own. We are not afraid of humans. All fleets to defensive positions. If they cross our border, we destroy them. Ambassador Thelion heard about the decision and closed his eyes. He had tried. He had warned them. Now all he could do was watch. He accessed human historical databases, something he had done 500 years ago when trying to understand the enemy. He found what he was looking for, the human concept of total war, the human approach to protecting their non-combatants, the human response to attacking their medical personnel. There were examples from Earth's own wars. Medics were supposed to be protected. International laws, sacred rules. When those rules were broken, when medics were deliberately targeted, the human response was always the same. Overwhelming, crushing force. Not for revenge, for deterrence, to ensure it never happened again. He found a quote from an ancient human soldier. We are peaceful. We are healers and builders and dreamers. But if you hurt our doctors, our nurses, our medics, you don't get to threaten anyone ever again. Kresh read over his shoulder. That's extreme. That's humanity, Thelion said. They value healers above almost everything else. Their doctors take an oath. First, do no harm. It's sacred to them. When someone violates that, when someone harms a person whose only purpose is to heal, he pulled up tactical data from the 72-hour war. Look at this. The Zarek attacked a human colony. They killed civilians, yes. That was horrible, but humans calculated their response carefully. Proportional military action. They were winning, but they were restrained. So what changed? Kresh asked. Thelion pulled up another file. Day 3, hour 68. A Jarak commander, frustrated by losses, ordered his troops to execute human medical personnel. 37 doctors and nurses. They were wearing clear medical markings. He killed them anyway. And the restraint ended, Thelion said. The next 4 hours were... I don't have words for it. Humans went from methodical to merciless. Not cruel, just utterly without mercy. They dismantled Jarak military capabilities so completely that it took 200 years to rebuild. He looked at the fleet positions. They're about to do it again. Kresh stared at the screens. Can we stop them? No, Thelion said. But we can make sure everyone learns from it this time. We can make sure no one ever shoots a medic again. The 24 hours began to count down. The galaxy watched and waited. The Jarak prepared for war. The humans just sat there, their dark fleet hanging in space like a promise. And at a small military outpost on the Jarak border world of Kreval, Commander Dravok watched the same countdown timer everyone else was watching. His mandibles twitched nervously. His superiors had told him not to worry. The humans were bluffing. The fleet would protect him. But Dravok had seen the footage of Dr. Chen. He had watched her save his people. He had shot her for it. And now an entire species was coming for him. For the first time in his life, Dravok understood what fear really meant. The timer reached 0. Commander Dravok had not surrendered. Neither had any of his chain of command. The Jarak Empire stood firm, their fleet positioned in defensive formations across their border. Grand Marshal Thoktar broadcast a message of defiance. They would not bow to human threats. Admiral Hawking received the message on the bridge of the Hippocratic Oath. He didn't look angry. He just looked sad. He nodded to his communications officer. Send the signal. Across human space in 12 different systems, something activated. Every asteroid that was really a weapons platform came online. Every hollow moon that hid shipyards opened up. Every hidden facility that had been built over 5 centuries revealed itself. The galaxy's intelligence services went into panic. The numbers didn't make sense. Humans had enough military infrastructure to supply 10 times their allowed forces. How had no one noticed? Ambassador Thelion knew how. He was watching the data come in, checking it against his old reports. They hid in plain sight, he told Kresh. Human mining operations in asteroid fields. Human research stations on remote moons. Human commercial shipping that moved massive amounts of cargo. All legitimate. All legal, and all hiding military capability. The human fleet began to move, not charging forward in a dramatic assault, just advancing steadily like a tide. The Hippocratic Oath led the way, that massive dreadnought covered in medical markings. It looked wrong, a ship of healing designed for war. The Jarak fleet opened fire first. Thousands of missiles, plasma bolts, and particle beams lit up the darkness of space. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon. All of it converged on the Hippocratic Oath. The human ship didn't dodge. It didn't even slow down. It just took the hits. Shields flared but held. The armor absorbed everything that got through. When the barrage ended, the ship was still there, still advancing, barely damaged. Impossible, Grand Marshal Thoktar said. Fire again. All weapons, they fired again. Same result. The Hippocratic Oath kept coming. Then it fired back. Not a massive barrage. Just one shot. A single lance of energy that hit a Jarak battleship's engine core with impossible precision. The ship didn't explode. The shot was too carefully calibrated for that. It just stopped, disabled, dead in space. Crew alive, but ship completely non-functional. Target military systems only, Admiral Hawking ordered. Engines, weapons, shields. No life support. No crew quarters. The battle became a demonstration. The human fleet moved through Jarak formations like they knew exactly where every ship would be. Every dodge, every tactic, every clever maneuver the Jarak made was countered before it happened. Because the humans did know. They had spent 500 years among the Jarak. Human doctors had worked in Jarak hospitals. Human engineers had consulted on Jarak ships. Human teachers had educated Jarak children. And every single one of them had been gathering information. Not through spying. Not through theft. Just through observation. Through learning. Through 5 centuries of paying very close attention to everything. Ambassador Thelion pulled up the data. Look at this. Human medical missions treated 80 million Jarek patients over 5 centuries. Every treatment was recorded. Every biological reading was stored. Humans know Jarek biology better than the Jarek themselves. Why does that matter? Kresh asked. Because now they know exactly how to fight them. They know Jarek reaction times. They know how Jarek tactical thinking works. They know the psychological profiles of Jarek military commanders. They've been studying the enemy for 500 years. On the Jarek border world of Kreval, where Commander Dravok was stationed, alarms began to sound. 3 human ships had broken off from the main fleet. They were heading directly for the planet. The base commander ordered all defenses active. Orbital weapons platforms charged. Ground-based missiles locked on. The human ships didn't attack the defenses. They just broadcast a message. Commander Dravok, you have 1 hour to surrender. After that, we're coming down. The base commander laughed. Let them come. We'll destroy them the moment they enter atmosphere. The hour passed. Dravok didn't surrender. He was in a bunker 3 kilometers underground, surrounded by troops. He felt safe there. The human ships entered atmosphere. The Jarek fired everything they had. The ship's shields held easily. They landed in a field outside the base. The rear ramps lowered. But no troops came out. Instead, the ships just sat there. What are they doing? The base commander asked. His answer came in the form of every electronic system in the base shutting down. Lights, doors, weapons, communications, everything. The base went dark and silent. Emergency power didn't activate. Backup systems didn't respond. It was like the entire facility had just died. In the bunker, Dravok's lights went out. He was in complete darkness, 3 kilometers underground with no power and no communications. His troops stumbled around trying to find manual controls that no longer worked. Then the lights came back on. But they weren't the base's lights. These were portable lights, carried by human soldiers who were somehow already in the bunker. They had gotten through 3 kilometers of sealed passages and multiple security checkpoints in complete silence. Commander Dravok, one of the humans said. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. You're under arrest for war crimes. Come peacefully. Dravok looked around. His troops were surrounded. They hadn't even heard the humans arrive. He raised his hands in surrender. This scene repeated across Jarek space. Not invasion. Extraction. Human forces went precisely where they needed to go, got exactly who they wanted, and left. They disabled defenses without destroying them. They captured targets without killing anyone. It was surgery, not war. But the most disturbing part came next. Behind the military forces came human medical ships. They went to every refugee camp, every civilian center, every place where Jarek civilians had fled the fighting. Human doctors set up clinics. Human medics treated the wounded. The same species that was dismantling their military was also saving their civilians. A Jarek mother, holding her injured child, watched a human doctor work. Why? She asked. Why help us? We're your enemy. The doctor didn't look up from his work. No, your government is our enemy. You're just a person. And this is a child. That's all that matters. Across Jarek space, the same scene played out thousands of times. Human military taking down Jarek defenses, human medical personnel treating Jarek civilians. The message was clear. We're not here to destroy you. We're here to stop you from ever hurting our people again. Within 70 hours of the first shot being fired, the Jarek High Command surrendered. Not because they were losing soldiers, not because their worlds were destroyed, but because they suddenly realized that humans could take apart their entire military infrastructure anytime they wanted, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. Grand Marshal Thoktar broadcast his surrender personally. We yield. Please no more. What are your terms? Admiral Hawking's response was simple. Commander Dravok and 47 members of his chain of command will be tried for war crimes. Your military will be reduced to defensive forces only. You will pay reparations to Dr. Chen's family, and you will sign a new treaty. We agree, Thoktar said immediately. Anything. Just stop. We already stopped, Hawking said. We stopped the moment you surrendered. Check your casualties. Thoktar checked the reports. Ships disabled, 12,000. Ships destroyed, 0. Military personnel killed 17, all from accidents during capture operations. Civilians killed 0. Humans had fought a war without killing anyone. They had just turned off the Jarek military like flipping a switch. Thoktar felt something he never thought he'd feel. Relief that humanity had chosen mercy. The trial took place on neutral ground, broadcast to the entire galaxy. Commander Dravok and 47 of his superiors sat in a courtroom on Station Unity 1. They were not chained or humiliated. They sat in regular chairs with legal representation from multiple species. The Galactic Council presided. Ambassador Thelion served as chief judge. He had insisted on this role. He wanted to make sure everyone understood what this trial meant. The evidence was simple. Videos from Dr. Chen's medical pack. Testimony from the Jarek civilians she had saved. Analysis of the location proving it was neutral territory. Commander Dravok didn't deny anything. He couldn't. The evidence was absolute. "Do you have anything to say?" Thelion asked him. Dravok stood. His mandibles moved slowly, a sign of deep shame in Jarek body language. "I was wrong. I let pride cloud my judgment. I saw a human where I should have seen a doctor. I saw an old enemy where I should have seen a healer. And I shot her for it." "Why did you shoot her while she was treating a child?" Thelion asked. "Because..." Dravok paused. "Because I wanted her to acknowledge my authority. I wanted her to fear me. I wanted to prove that humans weren't special, that they had to obey our rules. I was a fool." Thelion looked at him for a long moment. "Yes, you were. What is your sentence?" The legal experts had debated this for days. Death penalty, life imprisonment, exile, none of it felt right. But there was one suggestion that had come from an unusual source, from Dr. Sarah Chen herself. She was alive. Barely, but alive. Human medical technology had saved her. Technology they had kept hidden during the peace, just like their weapons. They had regrown her damaged organs, repaired her shattered spine, rebuilt her from the cellular level up. She was paralyzed from the chest down, but the doctors said with time, even that could be fixed. From her hospital bed on Earth, she had sent a message to the court. Thelion read it aloud. "Commander Dravok shot me because he didn't understand what it means to be a healer. He saw weakness where there was strength. He saw submission where there was service. I propose a different sentence. Let him learn what he destroyed." Thelion looked at Dravok. "Dr. Chen proposes that you serve in human medical facilities for the rest of your natural life. You will train as a medic. You will treat patients. You will save lives, as many lives as Dr. Chen would have saved if you hadn't shot her. If you refuse, if you fail, if you harm a patient, the treaty with your people is void and the human fleet returns." Dravok's eyes widened. "You want me to become a doctor?" "We want you to understand what you tried to kill," Admiral Hawking said. He was in the courtroom, sitting in the observers section. "You'll learn Jarek medicine, human medicine, Vaxil medicine. You'll treat anyone who needs help. And maybe eventually you'll understand what Dr. Chen understood, that healing is the strongest thing a person can do." Dravok looked around the courtroom. His legal team was signaling him to accept. His government had already agreed. He had no choice, really. But as he thought about it, he realized something. This sentence was worse than death. Death would be easy. Learning to heal, learning to care, learning to save the people he had spent his life learning to fight. That would be hard. "I accept," he said quietly. The galaxy watched a war criminal become a medical student. It was strange, unprecedented, but it was also very human. They didn't want revenge. They wanted prevention. They wanted to make sure it never happened again. The new treaty was signed 3 months later. The Treaty of Redemption 2.0, as some called it. The terms were simple but absolute. First, attacking medical personnel of any species was now a galaxy-wide capital offense. Not just human medics. Any medics, doctors, nurses, emergency responders, anyone with clear medical markings. Touch them and humanity would personally enforce the law. Second, every species had to adopt the medic doctrine into their military training. Healers were sacred, protected, untouchable. Third, humanity would maintain its fleet. No more limitations. The galaxy had seen what happened when humans were pushed. Better to let them keep their weapons and their vigilance. Fourth, human medical personnel would return to alien worlds, but with guarantees. Military escorts if needed, diplomatic immunity, and the understanding that if anything happened to them, the response would be immediate and overwhelming. The Jarek signed first. They had no choice. But others followed. Vaxil, Thalosian, Kryn, Kresh, every member species of the Galactic Council. Some signed because they agreed. Some signed because they were afraid. But they all signed. Ambassador Thelion signed on behalf of the Council. His hand shook slightly as he put his mark on the document. He was old now, tired, but he felt something like hope. "Why are you smiling?" Kresh asked him. "Because we finally learned the lesson," Thelion said. "It took 500 years and a war, but we learned. Humans are not warriors pretending to be healers. They're healers who will become warriors if you force them to. There's a difference." 5 years passed. Dr. Sarah Chen returned to work. She was in a specialized mobility chair now, her legs still not fully healed. But her hands worked fine. Her mind was sharp. She opened her clinic on Kepler 7th again. Her first patient was a young Jarak, infected with a rare disease. Chen treated her with the same care she had always shown. The girl's mother watched nervously. "You're really her," the mother said. "Dr. Chen, the one from the transmission." "I'm a doctor," Chen said, not looking up from her work. "That's all that matters," I wanted to say. "Thank you for not hating us, for coming back," Chen smiled. "I never hated you. I hate what happened. But you're not responsible for what Commander Dravok did." "Is it true he's training to be a medic?" "It's true. He works at a hospital on Earth, treating humans, actually, learning what it means to heal." The mother clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. "That's a harsh sentence, is it?" Chen asked. "He's saving lives. He's learning compassion. He's becoming someone who helps instead of hurts. Seems like a gift to me." 50 years after the incident, the galaxy celebrated 50 years without a major war. 50 years of peace, but different than before. This peace had teeth. Everyone knew what would happen if they broke it. Ambassador Thelion, now incredibly ancient even by Vaxil standards, gave one last speech before retiring. "We learned something important from humanity. Peace isn't just the absence of war. It's the presence of protection. Humans keep the peace not through threats but through promise. They promise to heal anyone who needs it, and they promise to stop anyone who prevents that healing." He paused, looking out at the assembled ambassadors. "Some of you still fear humans. I understand that. They're frightening when angered. But remember, they don't want to be warriors. They want to be doctors, engineers, teachers. They want to help. Just don't make them choose between helping and protecting, because they'll choose both, and that choice looks like what happened to the Jarak." Kresh, now an ambassador herself, asked him, "Do you think the peace will last?" Thelion smiled. "As long as no one shoots a medic, yes. And after what happened, after the galaxy saw what humans did for one doctor, I don't think anyone will be that stupid again." He was right. The peace held, not because everyone loved each other, not because conflicts disappeared, but because everyone understood the rules now. Healers were sacred. Anyone could fight a war. But you didn't touch the people trying to stop the bleeding. On every space station and every spaceport, a plaque was placed. It was simple, with text in every galactic language. The words were the same everywhere. "This station has been under peace for X years. Remember Dr. Sarah Chen. Remember that humanity chose mercy. Don't make them choose again." Dr. Chen, now 70 years old and fully recovered, saw one of these plaques while traveling to a medical conference. She stopped her wheelchair to read it, even though she'd seen it hundreds of times before. A young human intern was with her. "Does it bother you?" the intern asked. "Being the symbol of all this?" Chen thought about it. "No, because it's not really about me. It's about what we all believe. That healing matters more than hurting. That a doctor with no weapons is more powerful than a soldier with a gun. That's worth being a symbol for." She looked at the intern. "Just remember, if you're ever in a situation like I was, make the same choice. Save the patient. Always save the patient. Everything else can wait. Even if it means getting shot, especially then," Chen said. "Because someone has to show the galaxy what we value. Someone has to prove that healing is worth dying for. Otherwise, what's the point of any of this?" The intern nodded slowly. They both knew that somewhere in the galaxy right now, a human medic was treating an alien patient, and somewhere else a human warship was watching, silent and patient, ready to protect, ready to respond. The peace was real, but it was built on understanding. Hurt a human healer and you'd face human fury, but more than that, you'd face human determination. They wouldn't just punish you. They'd make sure you could never hurt anyone again. And they'd do it while still treating your wounded. That was the human way, terrifying and compassionate in equal measure. The galaxy had learned to respect both sides of that equation, and the peace held.